Hello and welcome to another one of my ramblings that might actually be useful to the internet. I don't know, I'm making guesses. I can only hope my guesses are useful, even if I'm not credited for them. I wish I was, but hey, I'm not doing the math behind it, other people are. You can't really take credit for the seed of an idea if you don't execute on it. You can't take credit for the seed of an idea if you don't execute on it. That's another line. That's another line. Okay, good. That explains the Nintendo lawyer case, but whatever. That's a tangent. What I'm wanting to go over here is this, which I watched 8 years ago, and how it explains a Bose-Einstein condensate in this little section, and how that might integrate with all of these different videos in this one piece of fiction. Because analog computing, light-based computing, digital computing, absolute zero. If you blend these concepts together, I feel like you might get something really powerful. And I don't know how accurate all these videos are, though. Because accuracy is determined by consistency over time relative to observed data sets and understandings that are proven to be reliable, accurate, and indisputable. Thus, it is a variable that is going to be shifting as more information, data, and sources come in. If too much noise is created, then you don't have any reliable data set. But if too little noise is created, you may be leaning towards a bias that ultimately gives you a false answer. So it's a difficult balancing act. I can only imagine how confusing it must be to actually try to do this kind of stuff by hand.
For hundreds of years, analog
AI using analog computing with different stored bit rates. You can store those down to like small, just above where the quantum scale interferes. Not like a step above it. I'm talking like at least 10 steps above it to ensure stability while also maintaining a reduction in size. Then that could work. Then, for more variable quantum computations, you could use light-based processing or the entirety of traditional quantum processors using absolute zero as a reference point for that. And then you multiply it by everything everywhere all at once, and you might just get something terrifyingly efficient. Because if you can get an analog computer that runs on light and is able to take the chipset as a reliable reference point, well, then leaving other operations to more dynamic quantum computing components, then the two would layer on top of each other in a way that just multiplies the speed and power while reducing the energy cost. Because since light has so little mass, it is very stable, as this video points out. And because of that, it also creates so little heat when it's generated and sent through any optical system. So it could be used as a way to make even more efficient processors with a longer battery life than we could even conceive of. Not because the batteries themselves last a long while, but because of how little energy the computer itself needs to run. If you intertwine all of these, you can get a dynamic triangle, if not a tetrahedron, that could quadrangulate concepts at an incredibly efficient rate. As it stands, though, that could be me throwing together a whole bunch of concepts I don't fully understand the true depths of, and making an amalgamation of distorted fantasy that does not connect to reality. So that's ultimately the key point that really makes for a trouble spot. And since I don't want to do the math, I'm not going to deal with the problem. See you all later. Bye.